Hello everyone, Gammon here. So, for anyone out of the loop, Blizzard decided to ban a Hearthstone player named Blitzchung for saying "Free Hong Kong." This player probably likes freedom. However, Blizzard clearly hates freedom and loves money as well as the taste of Chinese boots. However, this video isn't going to be about what Blizzard did because, well, there's so many videos and articles about it, and you probably know about that by now. This video is going to be about why Blizzard did it. It's very easy for us as outside observers to look at the situation, scratch our heads, and say, this is dumb. It really doesn't take a genius to see that banning a popular player and streamer in an effort to protect China's honor and dignity is going to raise some eyebrows in the West and bring about a fairly large backlash. So why would they risk this backlash? Well, the short answer is greed, but the significantly longer one is communism. China is a very large market, and a large amount of Chinese money is flowing into the gaming industry. This Chinese money doesn't just come in the form of players spending money on a game, but also as investments. So, for instance, about 40% of Epic stocks are held by Tencent, a Chinese company working in tandem with the Chinese government. Because, by the way, in China there's no such thing as an actual private company. Nearly every single company has people from the government on their board and is in some way or form working with the Communist Party. Also, as a quick side note, and as someone who fucking hates the Epic Game Store and Epic's business model, well done, Epic. Well fucking done. If you don't keep to your word, I will be making a video, but well fucking done. But Epic aren't the only company that relies on a lot of Chinese money. Because of how high risk gaming companies are, most Western companies will refuse to invest in them. Tencent and other Chinese companies, however, are getting a huge amount of subsidies from the Chinese government. Essentially, they're spending other people's money, specifically the money of the Chinese people. This is why if you'll look at most video game companies, you'll see a lot of Chinese investors. All of these investors are using money that was given to them by the government that was forcibly taken from the Chinese people. And because it's not their money and because they can always get more, they have absolutely no problem putting it into a risky business like video games. So generally, Chinese investors are key for most gaming companies these days. However, this is not the only reason why Blizzard decided to lick the boot. While they are obviously compelled by greed, the actual cause for their behavior probably wasn't, as some gaming journalists put it, a never-ending pursuit of growth or capitalism. Jesus fucking Christ, Jason, you absolute sad little commie. So, honestly, while any idiot could have foreseen a backlash, there's no way Blizzard could have predicted just how bad this backlash is going to be. And even now, I'm not sure how long lasting this backlash will be or how much of an impact this will have. I really do hope people will hold Blizzard's feet to the fire, but gamers don't have the best track record when it comes to boycotts. However, no matter how bad the backlash is, we can be sure of one thing, and that is that Blizzard isn't going to lose every single investor and customer in the West. The same can't be said about China. China has a fairly bizarre economic system that's very exception based, and honestly I don't fully understand it myself, and it's kinda dependent on a lot of deception. But here's the simplest way of explaining what I understood. Some markets have whitelisted companies. These companies work hand in glove and basically are the Chinese government. In the markets where whitelisted companies exist, no other companies are allowed to operate and compete with them, and they essentially have a monopoly on the market. Other markets have no whitelisted companies. When this happens, the Chinese government will allow most companies to sell their products, despite them technically breaking Chinese law by operating in Chinese markets without official sanction from the Chinese government. However, they can choose to stop you from participating in their markets at any time and for any reason, since you were never technically allowed to be there in the first place. Most companies that operate in China are grey companies, meaning they haven't been approved by the government, but because there are no government-approved competitors, they're allowed to exist. This includes Valve, Epic, and Blizzard. But there is a tier below grey, and this is the big no-no one, the blacklist. So for instance, Twitter can't be accessed in China. The same can be said for Twitch. These services have been blacklisted in China and have official government replacements. I believe the Chinese parallel to Twitter is Weibo, and it's not used in China because it's better or because they prefer it. It's used because it's the only thing they're allowed to use. If China doesn't like you, you do not get to sell in China. No matter how much Blizzard pisses off Western countries, or their population, or even their governments, individuals living in these countries can still make the choice to buy Blizzard games or invest in Blizzard. The same isn't true about China. Because it's a closed market in a communist country, in the event of Blizzard being blacklisted by the Chinese government, two things will happen that would be devastating for the company. The first is that Blizzard products will no longer be sold in China, or at least they can't be sold on any legal market, meaning Blizzard loses an insane amount of revenue. The second is that Chinese companies can no longer invest in Blizzard, which would be a big problem for them. Tencent already owns about 5% of Activision Blizzard, which is worth over $2 billion, and they'd probably have to dump all of these shares in case of a blacklisting. And the same is true for any and all other Chinese companies and people. Essentially, Blizzard will be completely blocked from all Chinese money, both as investments and as customers. Unlike the West, because it's a top-down market controlled by the government, it's an all-or-nothing game with China, and if you piss the government off, the repercussions can be absolutely brutal. Now, does this mean I sympathize with Blizzard or that they did the right thing? Fuck no. The odds of them ending up on a blacklist were and are incredibly small. Blacklisting isn't something the Chinese government does on a whim, and the odds of them doing it because Blitzchung said free Hong Kong in a winner's interview? Well, it's not zero, but boy is it small. Now don't get me wrong, the Chinese government are not a corporation. They don't care about profits, they don't care about anything other than staying in power and spreading their ideology. And they absolutely do make decisions out of ideological basis. What Blitzchung did would piss people in the Chinese government off. Would it piss them enough to block a giant multinational corporation in charge of a lot of games, a lot of them popular in China? Probably not. But I guess that's a risk Blizzard just don't have the balls to take. This is a case of corporate cowardice and greed coming head to head with a communist system and shamefully bowing down to them because they fear what will happen to them if they say no. And this is yet one more reason why both communism and corporatism suck. Now, before this video comes to a close, I want us all to think about what we can learn from this. So number one, China is a horrible communist shithole and should be opposed at every step. They do not trade fairly, they do not trade without ulterior motives, and their money always comes with strings. So be very wary of anyone who has taken Chinese money. Number 2. Some things are worse than losing a buck, such as losing your fucking reputation. And boy has Blizzard been losing its reputation, not just on the Blitzchung case, but also on the Diablo for mobile phones, and a bunch of other stuff lately. Once your brand is gone and your fans hate you, you have lost all potential revenue in the future. Sometimes trying to save money today will cost you everything tomorrow. Number 3. Gaming companies don't think that they will be held accountable by their Western audience. Show them that they're wrong, hold their feet to the fire. If you show them right now that you will not take it, that you will not allow them to bend to China without there being serious repercussions, then you will effectively stop future cases of companies bending to China. You can set an example right now and show them that this will not be tolerated. And by doing so, you will make the world a better place. Oh, and number 4, free Hong Kong. revolution of our age. This has been the video. Hope you liked it.